if I had to really look at it, where I got inspired to get into filmmaking, my earliest influences, so I would say, are Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, some of Brian De Palma's movies, Oliver Stone's movies, uh, Train Spotting. These are the kind of imagery that kind of inspired me to take up filmmaking as a profession, and to choose the visual storytelling part of it as my niche. Like that's the thing that I really wanted to do, and I ended up getting into that process of trying to understand the visual storytelling part of filmmaking, and try to get into that. As a child, what are my early influences in cinema is, I've seen a lot of Tamil films growing up. I've seen a few Western films. I've seen Ben Hur in the theater. That was one of my first experiences of watching films in a theater. Ben Hur in the theater was one. And a lot of Tamil cinema going back to the 40s, 50s, early black and white films. Some of the Technicolor work that came later after that. Some of the works that Bharati Raja did, Balachandra did in Tamil, uh, and many other things. Many other visual influences have kind of gone into that process. But I think some of the films that really inspired me going into my teenage and later years were a lot of stuff like Scorsese was a huge influence. Scorsese's films, just to make an awareness of the visual storytelling part of things. Just to make me aware of visual storytelling. One of the films that really caught my eye around my later teens, just out of college, just into college, was The Beach. The Beach was an influential film for me. Train Spotting was an influential film for me. Not Mean Street. Raging Bull was an influential film for me. Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, The Doors by Oliver Stone, Scarface, Brian De Palma, the work of Robert Richardson, the work of Darius Conji, later on the work of Christopher Doyle. So these are the things that really inspired me a lot, I think, growing up. And each one of them had their own influences. They had their own styles, and they had their own way they saw the filmmaking. They saw filmmaking visually, and how they adapted into different zones. Like Robert Richardson did Casino, and he did so many other of Scorsese's films and other films at that point of time, and each one had a distinct visual style. So those are the films that Seven by Darius Conji, David Fincher's film. That was quite an impressive film for me growing up. The same thing. I mean, Scorsese and Palma and Brandy Palma and Steven Soderbergh was quite interesting then. So these are the guys I actually grew up. I mean, yeah, these are the guys I remember growing up watching. Danny Boyle's Train Spotting was quite influential for me. And a lot of Tamil cinema also, right? Like Balu Mahendra's work, P.C. Sriram's works, Santosh Shivan's work. These were things that kind of showed you India and our spaces in a very cinematic light and in a very interesting way. And especially with film, the kind of work that they did with analog film, it was quite amazing the kind of stuff they had done. And it was quite amazing that each one had their distinct visual style, and they will experiment with different things in different films and create something new each time. And it was quite an interesting process to follow their careers, follow the careers of international filmmakers. I did start with photography. In my initial years. I did a lot of street photography. I was doing a visual communication undergrad, where I was studying photography and photograms and photography and black and white and color, printing. So these were things that were already I was doing in my undergrad. And I realized I was interested in capturing memories, but also trying to understand them in a palette that was interesting, in a color palette that was interesting. Um, and the first ideas of style started coming in, like the first ideas of framing, style in color. I used to do a lot of reverse processing, color processing, processing positive film as a negative. So that was something I was trying out at the point of time, and it was quite interesting then. So suddenly realized that you could make a career or a living, and not just a living. It's just something you understand that you're suited for, or you think you understand the system, understand the processes, and you can actually try to make it work for you. I mean, make the image work for you and manipulate it and stylize it and try to give different ways of understanding it. So yeah, so it was interesting to start understanding that. And I did start at photography, and I did a lot of street photography then. Not so much conceptual work, but street and stylized photography. I did a bit of fashion photography around then, just after college, just after UG. I did all of that. I initially got into filmmaking. Um, I initially got into filmmaking, trying to understand how to go about it. Initially started off with being an assistant director. For a year or two, I was an AD. I was assisting some of my seniors and some ad film professionals in Chennai. Then I applied for film school. I went to SRFTI, which is Satyaj Ray Film and Television Institute in Calcutta. So in SRFTI, of course, I was doing the cinematography course in SRFTI, and that opened up a lot of things for me. Definitely, that was something that opened up my eyes to world cinema and different kinds of cinemas from around the world. You One day you'll be watching a Kazakh film, one day you'll be watching something from Hollywood, one day you'll be watching from Eastern Europe, sometimes a Turkish film. So all of these different films and different styles of film, all of these had an influence in how you know. There was a film that called No Man's Land that came around that time. That was also quite a film to watch and to learn from. So there were so many films that film institutes kind of open you up to. So that's also quite something for a young person that really does get you going. So, did I assist anyone? Yes, I did assist somebody. I assisted Hemant Chaturvedi, who's a DOP I had been a fan of for a very, very long time. I've seen his company on one of my first visits to Bombay in a theater, I was quite blown by the work. Mr. Hemant Chaturvedi is one of the most. I think my experience with him is what informs what I do even now. He's like a guru for me. He had amazing work, naturalistic work. He had very finessed Hollywood style work. He had a lot of work that it had a spectrum of work. He had a spectrum of work which kind of illuminated the path for me in a lot of ways. And I did learn a lot. I mean, I do think assisting is a good process to go through. Not always. Sometimes some people do well without assisting, and they can start their own way, and they need to go about it the way they want to. But assisting is a good way to understand an industry, especially to understand the scale of things, understand the different things that go into a filmmaking process. Sometimes you want to keep it simple and be indie and very tight and small and everything. But when you scale up and when you want to understand a slightly larger scale and everything, it always helps to assist somebody go through the process with a established DOP, trying to understand their process, trying to understand how they navigate the process, how they navigate the larger film industry, how they navigate the larger production. The larger production comes with its own moving parts. There are so many levels of the production. There are so many levels of understanding the production side of it, sir, the creative side, the jam between the creative side people. I mean, the production designer, the director, all of that. So it's quite interesting to assist in that process. You learn a lot. You do learn a lot. But maybe, I mean, it's something that you can take a call. I mean, if you, I think assisting helps, but even without assisting, you can work. I did work parallelly. I was doing my own MTV promos and advertising and other stuff. So it's something that helps, but it's also nice to do your own thing. So a good mix is nice, I think. Like just to understand a little bit of mentorship is nice. A little bit of doing your own thing is nice. So you kind of understand and try to do the things that you like. But definitely to understand scale and understand a production system, I think it does help to go through the assisting process. Yeah. So I think that is good. So my first film project happened uh, through a friend of mine. I had been reaching out to a friend of mine to do his project. I mean, been following up for a while. A friend called Tyagarajan Kumar. He's a noted director in Tamil. And he ended up passing my number on to another director called Gautam Vasudev Menon. And it worked out. I mean, it worked out to be a good experience. There was a film that they had to shoot, and I think that's how it works. So most of the times it is through people, that different people reach out to you through other people, and the process is to keep, I wouldn't say it networking, but to reach out to people and just put the word out there that you are there, and this is the kind of work you like, and this is the kind of work you kind of build. And the work communicates, but I think reaching out to people and kind of building that circle, I think, is very important as a DOP, and that's how it, for the most part, functions. I mean, it has to come to you. That's the most important part for me. I mean, I work from that. I mean, if the equation is good with the director, if the script has space for you to understand and work in a certain way, which is to build a certain style or a certain grammar for a film, either in terms of lighting or color or framing, any of these things. Like each film has its own call. So the first film that I did, Achcham, Yenbadhu, Madamaiyada, I had to create a thriller action film kind of a vibe. So in that, I almost it was the whatever I had shot was almost entirely handled on a 50 and a 85 lens inside closed rooms, and it was a claustrophobic, intense thriller. You had to be up in the face of the character. You had to capture action in a kinetic manner. So we ended up shooting most of it handled, most of it on tighter lenses. We had certain limitations in terms of the scale of the production design also. So we kept it very tight and intense, and we created a certain environment for the actors to inhabit. So it became quite interesting there. The second film that I did was, which was Petromax. The other film that I done is Petromax, in which it had like there was easily about 6 to 7 people in a frame or in a scene. So how do you stage that? How do you stage that when there are dates issues? Actors are coming back and forth sometimes. We have to shoot around an actor sometimes, and still create a meaningful, dialogue, and it has to match looks and everything. But beyond that, to create a stage, like a tableau-like environment for the actors to come and inhabit, there was we kind of worked with internal reversals. That's what they call it, I think. A lot of it was shot in internal reversals in this film. So you shoot right into camera, and many of the shots are tableaus where like 6 people are in a frame, and you're trying to construct a scene around that. So these were challenges that you face in each film, and you and each film comes with its own challenges. And I think that's what you look for in a film. The challenges make it interesting, and the limitations make it interesting also. The limitations and the challenges are part of the same bundle, and that's what makes it interesting. That's what excites you, right? So that's I think that's how I like my work. I think it's both. I think it's both because, like photography, cinematography is also part art, part craft. I think you mess up on either side, you're going to get into trouble. So I think it's craft. You have to really be good with the craft. I think that's a given. Is it intuitive? Is it intuitive? I would say it's intuitive. I mean, like some people like tactile things. Some people like oral things or verbal things. Some people like listening. Some people like talking. Like that, I think some people like visual image making. There is a certain process to it and a certain knack certain people have to create interesting images. I'm hoping that I kind of fit into that. But you find a kind of a zone where you understand it and you work through. And we all find those knacks. I mean, niche. There are niches of people where you can, yeah. So you find your zone. Inside this work you find your zone. Inside this work you find your zone. So intuitiveness, yes, but also it is something we learn. So there is, of course, technology is advancing all the time. Technology is just going not in one direction; it's going all around. I mean, film is coming back and going, and people are shooting in film. But the basic grammar of it is something you need to learn and keep updating it. At least philosophically, understand it. You might have a good camera tech to understand the camera for you, but still, you need to have a grasp of it. You need to understand it, and you need to understand what all you can do with it. So there is a lot of things that changes over a period of time. Over a 20-year career, you understand that technology changes, and lighting systems change, film systems change, the digital image capturing system is changed, and it will change, keep changing, and it'll keep changing, and it'll keep changing, and you might have shorter formats or longer formats, and how do you adapt to all of these things also matters. I think so. It's intuitive, but it's also like something you learn, something it's an art and a craft. Yeah. My last film was Petromax. I really enjoyed doing it. It was for a friend called Rohin Venkatesan. It was a challenging film in the sense we had a very tight schedule, and we had one of the lead actors was there for only 10 days, so we had to kind of shoot around their portions and then kind of incorporate them into the portions that we wanted them to be. So it was quite a challenge. It was quite a challenge to incorporate all of that and still produce a seamless viewing experience for people. And I think we had a good time doing that. I think one of the processes, best part is to have a good time, have a interesting and a stimulating time in the filmmaking process. That's very important. And in terms of lighting, we kind of went sculptural, very very simple beauty lighting for the actors, most parts. Some of it is zone lighting. So it is a mix and mash of. I mean, I go back to the films that trigger triggered the passion for filmmaking for me. I go back to that. I go back to paintings. I like to do a little bit of art history and kind of painting color references, at least from paintings, frames from photography, from paintings again, from cinematography of different eras of work. Um, I like to do a noir sometimes, so I'm planning on kind of figuring it out. Noir set in somewhere in Chennai in the 2025s. So how would that look? That would be interesting to kind of approach. So I seek inspiration from things around me in terms of what the lighting looks like or what color looks like in the moment, in this time. I like to do lighting. I like to do lighting when it's a little bit more genre lighting. Like I like to do things that are in different time periods in terms of the look. Like use different kind of lighting sources, different kind of light colors, different kind of gels. So all of these things are, these are the things that inspire me actually. Just trying to understand from lighting is interesting, color is interesting, framing is interesting. Framing doesn't have to be always sit upright and a 3/4 or rule of thirds and everything. It can be handled in jittery and uh, it it can be all of that, and it can be handled in jittery in a emotional moment. It can be handled in jittery in a active action kind of a zone. It can be handled in jittery. So how do you use it? Like how do you use different uh, inspirations to understand a given script or a given source material. Like how do you interpret that? That's the fun part. I think inspiration comes from everywhere. Paintings definitely, photos definitely. A lot of my work is inspired by photographs of some of the masters, right? Like Sebastian Salgado, Raghuveer Singh, all of these guys, right? Like Enrique Brazon, the framing. So all of these things inspire you. All these things give you understanding of where you can go with imagery and what you can create with imagery. Yeah. What is in the kitty right now? I'm working mostly on advertising. So as of now, mostly advertising. I'm having meetings on film. Nothing right now in the kitty, but hopefully by the end of the year, something is going to move. Yeah, so series and films is what I'm concentrating on these days, but advertising is keeping me busy for the minute. Like I said, a noir set in the world right now, maybe something color, an explosion of color, something, like different things kind of inspire me and kind of I aspire to, rather, right? I would like to do some noir stuff, like the soft noir of the current generation. I'd like to create something on that kind of a palette. Something on. Actually, I don't want to talk about my blunders because I think we've all done a few things in our lives, and I don't think they matter so much in the, overall scheme of things. Maybe you made a wrong framing choice, and maybe you included a light in the frame, and maybe something came into the frame by accident or something like that, and you'll beat yourself up over it for a long time, and in the final film it doesn't matter. People edit over it, and or it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like it's not something to carry for a long time. Filmmaking is a craft to is a collaborative art form. I think I don't carry my blunders too heavily anymore. I used to, but I don't. I don't advise people to carry it over either. You do make blunders. I mean, you do make mistakes, and I think the mistake is only mistake I think is a mistake right now is to not have a good equation with people towards the end of the shoot. Have I think that's the only blunder. If you can avoid that, I think you're fine. Most of the things can fly. You know, try to make a few friends on set. Try to make a comfortable, enjoyable working experience for everybody, where everybody can chill at the end of the day and say good shoot. I think that's what we need to aim for. Blunders just take the focus away, and it's useless to go into that zone. Yeah. I think the system keeps changing, as in like how a person becomes a cinematographer keeps changing. I think the system keeps changing, right? Like how people become cinematographers is changing as we speak, and every time it's a newer generation that's coming in who've gone through a different process of it, right? Like somebody might have been doing a lot of gaming and understood cinematography and lighting through that. For example, I'm just making a far-fetched example. Maybe I'm not too sure, but any advice to aspiring cinematographers is a complicated question. Well, it's fairly simple answer. It's like fine tune your art, find your source of inspirations, and find your source of conveying your art through your work. And to do that, understand the craft of it. I think understanding the craft of it, practicing the craft of it, either through going through a film school or a film, workshop or any of these things, or through going through the assisting and associate and second unit and all of those roles you can play in a film set. You could be a drone operator and become a DOP the next few years. So you can choose your path to it. I think the path is not that obscure anymore. It's kind of, people are wide-eyed about it. People understand it and they have a clear path to being a DOP. Books, I've been reading a few sci-fi books. I read Greg Bear's Darwin's Radio recently. Books actually have been not reading too much for a while. I think it's becoming a visual phase in my life, and I'm not reading too much. I think I'm just too much on Instagram, maybe, I don't know, but not watching too much and not reading too much on that. But I've been doing research for a script that I'm writing. I'm trying to figure out whether I can write and direct at some point of time. So, been reading and watching a lot of sci-fi films and books. So that's one. And music, I'm kind of eclectic in taste, so I kind of have a variety of music I listen to. A recent album that I listened to was Global Invasion and Invisible Migration, or the other way around. So there's an album by Amar 808, which is a electronic album based on folk and Carnatic music. So it's quite interesting. It's alternatively Carnatic and folk, and it's kind of almost like a storytelling kind of material in the whole album. So it is quite interesting. In terms of films, I've been watching quite a lot of films. I'm just in the process of watching Ford versus Ferrari, uh, The Complete Unknown. I really like that kind of work where it's larger scale things, but told quite painterly. It's quite interesting the way it's shot and it done. And I liked F1 recently. I liked Sinners recently. That was quite interesting. I want to see a little bit more work that is colored by today. So I'm trying to see more films. I think as you shoot more, you tend to l- let go of film watching for a bit sometimes. I think I'm catching up on that. Thank you. Nice talking to you guys. Thank you so much.